on the conference regarding the presidential report of President Zuma throughout the day. And of course, there has been a jovial and upbeat mood as we saw the delegates at the meeting, or rather the members of the ANC there singing. And of course, when the president finished with his speech, he also sang There's the popular song that we know him of. And now let's cross back to Vuyo and of course get the latest from him regarding the reports that have been tabled at the NGC. Vuyo, what can you tell us now? What's happening at the moment?
Well, thanks very much, Colin. Well, we've been waiting since about 1 o'clock or thereabout, and that's when the opening plenary where President Jacob Zuma gave his political report came to an end. Now, when the delegates were expected to come after they were expected to come back from the lunch break, they were then going to go to a behind closed doors plenary, and that is where two reports were to be tabled. The one report was going to be the state of the organization, which was going to be tabled by the ANC's Secretary General Gwede Mantashe, as well as another report on the state of the finances of the governing party, which was going to be tabled by its Treasurer General Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Now, those conversations are still going on behind closed doors. We were expecting about an hour ago or so the Secretary General Gwede Mantashe to address a media briefing where he was going to speak to journalists about what was contained in that report. We are still waiting. However, I can say that I did somehow manage, I don't know where I got it from, but I did manage to get a copy, and just from the cursory reading of it in the past half an hour, some really interesting things are contained in that report. As viewers who will have watched our last crossing would have seen, there was, I spoke about an issue that was being spoken about, and that was the drop in membership of ANC members. Now, on the back of that, this particular report is now talking about ANC support that might dip and actually go below 60%. Now, that is definitely going to be cause for concern for the ANC that is facing an election in just under a year's time. So an interesting development, which no doubt should in fact shake any organization that's facing an election. 60% that ANC support may drop to below 60%. That's one of the highlights, certainly from what I have read. Another issue coming out of this very same report is that the ANC, there's a call to name and shame unscrupulous business people who are involved in the buying of votes and other illicit activities. Now, that's going to be an interesting one, because remember, a lot of the government, a lot of the business people who President Jacob Zuma addressed last night, the same business people whom he asked to fund the ANC if they want to see change in South Africa, a lot of them may just be responsible or involved in what is being highlighted here. So if you're going to name and shame those who go around with big black plastic bags full of money buying votes, it's going to be interesting if indeed the ANC will act on this particular recommendation. Another issue that has come through, which the report of the Secretariat of the ANC highlights, is they say of great concern are NEC members who are either charged or have pending cases of corruption against them. As the number of these comrades grows, we will be unable to sustain the technical argument of innocent until proven guilty. We must appreciate that these cases diminish the standing and dent the image of the organization, and our comrades are also reluctant to step down voluntarily when facing challenges. Are they going to have the will and the determination to actually act on this phenomenon? Because this is what a lot of people have actually been saying. You will recall that earlier, from the clips that we've been playing throughout the day since President Jacob Zuma made his speech. One of the things that he made there was that the ANC has, to quote him, has not been soft on corruption. He was saying that, in fact, the reason South Africans are able to talk freely and openly about corruption today is precisely because the ANC has been acting on corruption. But this particular admission actually begins to suggest that the ANC should actually move away from that narrative, for that issue is really influencing public opinion. The reason people are saying the levels of corruption are increasing is precisely because they are seeing very well-placed and ANC people who are higher up in the echelons of the organization and of government being involved, and this admission actually attests to that, if everything. And I'm sure throughout over the next hour or so, we'll be able to pick up or other admissions and other interesting developments. For those, for now though, I just wanted to share those with you.
Vuyo, you raised something very, very interesting earlier in our crossing after 3 o'clock. With such prolific poignancy, if one were to say, regarding issues that were raised on the podium during the presidential report. And you were asking a question that if they are raised like that at the podium, when there are breakaway sessions, are they going to discuss them frankly as they have been raised?
That is in fact the issue, because if you listened to how the president was so vocal and very strong on certain issues, there were areas where he would just raise an issue and leave it there. And if you really take a more nuanced view of that, it then begins to say that maybe the reason, or the only reason, he sought to raise those pertinent issues was to perhaps allow people to sort of pick up or pick and choose whatever they may have wanted to pick and choose. In other words, he wasn't, in my view, as forthright on very important issues that actually go to the core of what we've seen over the past few weeks and over the past few months. And that, I was saying earlier, and that is where lies the danger, because you will then, or you are leaving it to the delegates themselves to appropriate the comments that the president is making and to basically decide what to take and what to leave. Whereas if, for example, he had taken some of the examples that are being spoken about here and put them out there in the public domain with very concrete examples of some of the things that actually people have been talking about openly, then he would have sent a very strong signal that says we are serious about this time around, and we are indeed going to deal with this phenomenon that we are seeing, or these tendencies that we are seeing, or the cancers that he actually referred to. But as things stand, even with this report being more open in certain instances than he actually was, one still isn't really convinced that the frankness that is supposed to characterize the behind closed doors discussions will indeed happen. But of course, we will see over the next 3 days if indeed someone will prove some of us wrong. Colin?
Well, I bet you're going to have a long night this evening, especially for your wait in patience for the next development in your coverage of this. And of course, all the best for you. I bet you're not going to have a weekend or a holiday, but you are going to be hard at work in keeping us apace with the development at the NGC. All the best to you, and I hope I'll bring you an energy drink there. All right, that's our contributing editor there, Vuyo Mvoko.